Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing, and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Wednesday, August 13th, 2025. It's good to see you, Amy and Emily. Who else is here? I see a whole bunch of people just joined, so I want to make sure I don't miss a chance to say hello. Penny, it's good to see you. It's broadcast 1366. It is day 677 since October 7th. Susie and Michael, Arlene, it's good to see you too. Hi, Ivy. Hi, Rabbi Wasser. Linda and Barry, Debbie, Lydia, good to see you. Natalia and Debbie, Boker Tov. Cecile and Amy, Deborah, good to see all of you. Hope that you and yours are safe and well. Tony, nice to see you, my friend. Joyce and Rosa. Rosa, you just shared. You shared that I'll say it your way, your Canadian friend, Linda Beecham, Zichronah Livracha, has passed away. She often told you how much comfort she found in this live stream. I know Linda's name well. I'm so sorry to hear of your loss, of our loss. May Linda's memory be forever blessed. Today's Torah, friends, is in memory of Linda Beecham. Rosa, thank you for sharing that with us. Joyce, it's good to see you. Kim and Ron, Barbara, Valerie, Corinne and Stanley, good to see you. John, Boker Tov, Diane and Minna, good to see you. Okay, let's take a breath. I'm going to sing a bracha. We'll learn some Torah. Here we go. All right, my friends. Good morning. It's good to see all of you. Hope that you and yours are safe and well. It is broadcast 1366. It is day 677 since October 7th. Let's learn some Torah. It's Parshat Ekev, and it has its pulsing energy, the way that we've discussed the last few days. These are Moshe's last words to the people that he has led his whole life, and we know it, and he knows it. He knows that he won't be crossing over the Jordan River, that they are camped just across of. He's been granted a vision of the promised land. He appoints Joshua to lead the people, and he's trying to make sure that we remember what we need to do. Now, the we is an interesting and complicated thing for us to remember here too. Because after all, the Israelites, Bnei Israel, we say Jews, but they were Israelites at the time, that he's speaking with were not the ones that left Egypt. So part of this responsibility, this urgent task, is to convey testimony. is to tell us what our parents, what our grandparents went through. That's part of the job of education. But also, it is important for us to convey the emotionality of having been alive during certain moments. It's strange to think, but it happens now often, that when I'm teaching future rabbis, even, who have begun their rabbinic studies, that they were born after 9/11. And so part of what I convey when I speak about how the world shook is how I felt. Moshe does this in this week's Parsha in a way that builds intensity from the first two parshiot of this book of Deuteronomy. He speaks about his anger. He lays bare his anger. And what an incredible and heavy thing to hear that we made our teacher angry. Not only that, the anger pours out from God as well. What a thing to hear God's anger at Mount Sinai when we began worshiping a golden calf, where God says and Moshe repeats that God was so angry God would have destroyed us all, and Moshe stood in the breach, but then Moshe was angry. Anger is an important thing for us to consider. It's often described by therapists and researchers as a secondary emotion. Often anger actually masks deeper underlying emotions. I'm angry because I'm scared. I'm angry because I'm sad. Now, anger is its own thing, but how interesting to see how our emotions weave into each other. And Moshe, of course, is terrified. He's terrified of his own death. He's sad about that in a way that he expresses very clearly. But he's also angry because he blames us. He said it last Parsha. He blames us for the punishment of not being able to get into the land. We provoked him, and before we defend ourselves or our ancestors, let's be clear. He's not wrong. We are very difficult. We've always been very difficult. We will likely always be very difficult. And we make each other angry. But that anger always, I believe what the therapists suggest, our anger masks or covers or is the manifestation of or is triggered by other, other deeper emotions. Why is God so angry when we worship a golden calf? Of course, the Torah describes God as an Elkanah, a jealous God. So, okay, we went, I don't mean to be trite about this, but we went and loved another God, meaning the golden calf. And that's intense to read. God got jealous. But the anger, the blazing anger, God grows over the course of Torah. And to quote Debbie on Facebook and John on Instagram, a stiff-necked people. It's true. We're not easy. But Moshe is telling his own story. And so what I want to do is draw the line between history, what happened, and historiography, how we tell what happened. Because this is through the filter of Moshe's emotions. By the way, that's a song waiting to be written. Moshe's emotions. That would be great. What I want to point out here is we have an entire chapter, chapter 9 of Deuteronomy, where the anger is the focus. And then the first verse of Perek Yud of chapter 10 begins with this. Ba'et hahi amar Adonai Eli. In that moment, God said to me, Psal lecha shnei luchot avanim karishonim. Carve for yourself 2 tablets just like the first ones. Va'alei Eli hahara. And ascend to me up the mountain. V'asita lecha aron eitz. And make an ark of wood. Now, there are actually very interesting midrashim about, is this a new ark? Because it is a new set of tablets. But what a really important thing for us to consider. Moshe's anger is pulsing through him, even in the retelling of the story, let alone in the original story. And what an amazing, amazing thing to wonder about. That what God tells Moshe to do, and Moshe is now explaining, is what to do with a body that is full of anger. And I'm reading a little bit into this, but it goes verse to verse. In that time, God said to me, you know what you do with your body? Go build something. Go make something holy. When our bodies are full of anger and the underlying emotions, which of course include fear, go build something. Construct something. Channel it to do something good. Anger is a natural emotion. And so often, especially on social media, but not only on social media, we see people use their anger thoughtlessly. We become reactive. Now, sometimes anger is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there should be no anger. That would both be fruitless and wrong. Karen's saying make art, make something. First of all, acknowledge that it's happening. Moshe's telling the story. He knows how angry he was. He knows how angry God was. He knows how dangerous the moment was, and he's making sure we know it too. And as Rabbi Cantor Risa just wrote, I believe Bnei Israel, our ancestors, were still learning as we are also still learning. And she agrees that what we can do produces such sadness that quickly turns into anger in Moshe. Of course, it's not that there aren't moments that provoke anger. It's a question of what do we do with the anger that can sometimes be provoked. Too often, we, wherever we are, experience something that makes us angry, and what we do with that is we tear things down. Moshe, in the text here in Dvarim, different than the telling of the story in Exodus, instead of in Exodus where it feels like the stones dropped, like he threw them down, but it is explicit here in the retelling, in this parsha, that he broke the tablets. And after the expression of anger that he makes explicit and quite powerful in chapter 9 of Dvarim of Deuteronomy, here we have exactly from one verse to the next God's command. I'll just read the English one more time. Thereupon God said to me, carve out 2 tablets of stone like the first. That is a long effort. You might have thought that God handed pre-made tablets etched by the finger of God. But actually, this is a human construction. These tablets are explicitly created by Moses' hand. Whatever you think about Revelation, what is Torah and where did it come from, the physical device, the artifact that we're talking about, it's Moshe's body making this. Again, anger as a reflection of underlying emotions, often fear or sadness. It has its place, but what I'm saying, what I'm saying, what I think the Torah is saying here, is that we are called to acknowledge when we have anger and to try to do something constructive with it. Channel it, carve something holy, make art. The places where it's not helpful are in debates. We're actually told in tradition, lo lefayes, don't try to appease someone when they're in the height of their anger. And we shouldn't see our anger, even if we believe we're right about the thing that has made us angry, we shouldn't try to bait each other. That's like war on a very small scale. No one wins there. But what Moshe models, what God models through Moshe's story, and what the entire book of Deuteronomy is a guide what to do in uncertain times when emotions are swirling. Because to be very plain about it, Moshe knows he's dying. Moshe's worried we will never learn. Moshe is trying to tell us that even God gets angry because we never learn. We just don't. We don't. We are good at fighting. We think we're good at winning. Actually, we're bad at both. Nobody's good at fighting. Because why would anyone want to be good at fighting? No one should aspire to that. No one should aspire to that. Not when it comes to the emotional warfare that often happens when people don't feel stable. No one wins in these moments. So, how about we try to win less? How about we try to win less? And when we feel angry, how about we take some space so that we don't see the anger as constructive itself? But when we do feel anger, because we won't be able in that irrational moment to say to ourselves, oh, I'm angry. That actually means that I'm probably feeling something else. If you have a good therapist, as thank God I have had over the years, you can have a good space to talk that through. If with some other friend, not the place where you were activated, somewhere else, you can say, I'm so angry, and just feel the tension release. Because you won't feel angry like that forever. It will be a process. But because we don't always have access to that, how important for us to consider taking space and channeling the anger to build something worthy. Because after all, when you look at the story very carefully, the first tablets that perhaps were carved by God, or more direct revelation, the ones that were broken, that was of divine source. The ones that lasted, they were what Moshe made with his own hands. And our goal should be for a covenant that lasts, for relationships that can endure. When we speak in anger, even if we're clever with our wording, we're not helping. And just to make a more direct point of it, often, because of what social media has done to our brains and our relationships, we think that if we end with a clever closing, or we make our point as if it's like one of those sitcoms or drama series where one character says something really intense and then walks out the door, you hear the music swell, and then everyone pauses because something important was just said and there was no response. No, when you're fighting, there's always a response. And when you're angry, there's always some retort. That's not. That's not guidance for us, not in this moment. Not between us as individuals, not between nations. This moment of global instability, with more than enough pain to fill every book that will ever be written. Let's try to do something better, one interaction at a time, because we will always be a stiff-necked people. And if that is a description of how our bodies just don't move and we can't even turn our heads when we're so angry that all we can look at is right ahead, maybe what we can do instead of trying to turn our stiff necks is turn our whole body, look at something else, and try to make something beautiful. Something that will endure. Something deserving all the sacrifice it took to get us this far. Anger doesn't help. It might motivate, but it doesn't help. Not in the long term. Let's take a breath. Send our hearts to the east. Pray for our family. Let's sing. Kolon balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefate mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia עוד לא עבדה תקוותנו, התקווה בת שנות 2000, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow.